Hi everyone. You've planted your container garden, you've given it sun, you've watered it, you've fertilized it, you're feeling pretty good about it. And then all of a sudden it stalls out and stops producing. And you're like, what the heck happened? Well, today I'm going to share with you why most container gardens fail. But the good news is there's fixes for those that can help get your container garden back on track. Let me show you the first failure, because if this one is wrong, nothing else matters, and most people don't even realize it until the damage is already done. One reason why container gardens fail is because the container is too small. What happens when you plant too large of a plant in too small of a container is that the roots actually hit the wall of the plant and then stop growing. And when the roots stop growing, it switches from growth mode to survival mode. For example, here we have a small little indeterminate tomato growing in a 5-gallon pot. If I was to leave this tomato in this pot, it would stop growing and it might get large and kind of leafy, but it's not going to produce fruit. Same thing goes for a pepper. If you've got a big pepper in a small pot, the leaves might look nice and green, but no fruit production means your container garden has failed at that point. You can give it more sun, you can water it more, you can fertilize it more, but that's not going to change the root problem. When the roots are root bound and circle around, they can't take up the water, the air, or the nutrients that you're providing it. You may have a big plant, but you're going to have a tiny harvest because none of that adds root space. So here's kind of the rule of thumb. When you have small plants with shallow roots like greens, herbs, and small flowers, you can use a 3 to 5 gallon pot. However, if you have a large plant like an indeterminate tomato plant or a large pepper plant or even a cucumber plant that vines, you need to use at least a 10, 15, or 20 gallon container for that. So look at the difference with this container. You've got plenty of root space for this tomato to keep on growing and expanding its roots. When it has a good, strong root system, because tomatoes have very deep roots, it's going to be able to take up all that water and nutrients and sunshine that you're working so hard to give it. It's going to grow and produce, so you've got a big tomato harvest. So the fix for this is pretty easy. Either upsize your container to match the vegetables that you're growing, or grow smaller varieties of the same vegetables like a dwarf tomato or a smaller variety of pepper or cucumber that will grow well in a smaller pot. Take the time to get the container size right from the get-go, and your chances of success rise exponentially. But even when you get the container size right, there's still another reason why container gardens fail. Next reason why your container garden is failing is because you're using soil that doesn't support containers. Let's just get real here. Garden soil that you just dig up from your backyard does not belong in containers. It's just too hard and compact, doesn't drain well, it suffocates the roots, and once the roots get suffocated, your plant's going to stall, you'll have yellowing leaves, and you're just not going to get the production that you want. So this might be okay for your in-ground gardens, but the containers do not have the soil biology, the microbes, and the worms to break down hard, compacted soil. So if your soil crusts easily on the top, or gets hard and compacted like this, or pulls away from the sides, it's wrong for containers. And the fix for this is very easy. Use a potting mix that's specifically designed for growing in containers. Look at the difference between these two mixes. My potting mix here is lightweight. It's going to hold moisture, but yet provide good drainage for my roots. It also has good nutrients in it. It's got good mycorrhizae, some compost, good beneficial bacteria in this potting mix, and plant food that will help your container plants grow and produce like you want them to do. Bumper crop potting mix is designed especially for growing in containers, and it checks all those boxes. I've used it for a couple of years, and it's been a real game changer for me. I recommend you try it at least one time. And the good news is you can find it at your local Master Nursery Independent Garden Center. So you're also supporting local businesses at the same time. And you can go to the store locator at bumpercrop.com to find a location near you that carries it. I've never seen anything change the production of my containers like bumper crop soil. I'm going to be planting this kale and mustard greens. You tell me, which soil do you think it will do better in? The hard clay soil from my backyard, or this beautiful light and fluffy potting mix? Look at that. The soil is nice and light and fluffy. There's great drainage. It's not going to get compacted and suffocate the roots. So you get the container size right, the soil right, and you have just increased your chances of success for your container garden and to grow a lot of vegetables. You have already used your backyard soil for your containers. All is not lost. What you want to do in that situation is take about 1/3 of the soil out of your containers. If you already have plants in it, you can even dig it out from around your plants, and then fill it up the rest of the way with a good quality potting mix like bumper crop. You want to break up that heavy compacted soil in your container and then kind of mix in this fresh potting mix to break up the root zone, because that's usually where things stall, is right around the root zone with that heavy compacted soil. Then backfill around your plant or fill up your container the rest of the way full. And then the next time you fill up new containers, just start fresh with brand new potting mix. And then every time you plant and replant in your containers, just add a few inches of fresh potting mix for additional nutrients so your plants continue to be healthy and productive. Even with the right soil, there's still one habit you might be doing that causes your containers to fail, and that is shallow watering. When you give your containers light little dribbles of water, the water is staying at the top of the containers, and then the roots aren't growing down to develop that good root structure at the bottom of the container. And when you have good root structure, you're going to have good leafy plants and good yield on the top of your containers. And even more importantly than that, shallow roots are not going to hold up to the heat. When you see your container plants often wilt in the heat of the summertime, that's because they don't have a good root structure underneath. There's no moisture underneath. They're going to wilt. Your tomatoes, peppers, and cucumbers are going to drop blossoms, which means no fruit, and your container garden is going to fail, and you're going to wonder why. Here's the watering rule so that you know you've done it right. You're going to water slow and deep until the water runs out the bottom every single time. This way your plants will go down to seek the water and develop a good root structure, and your container garden will be successful. If you let your soil dry out, it often becomes hydrophobic, and then your soil will struggle to absorb water and stunts the plants. The damage is done and you have to start all over again. Here's how to know if you've done it right. If you lift your container and it feels heavy, it means it has good moisture content. If it feels light and you can lift it easily, it means you need to water more. Or if the top of the soil looks dry and you poke your finger down into it and it's wet underneath, that means you've watered enough. But if it's still dry underneath, that means you need to water more. Super, super important that when you're hand watering, you check your containers daily to see if they need water. And this is why I like systems that are made specifically for containers like Mr. Landscaper so well. You can put them on a timer, you can set it, they can water your containers every day, water them deeply so it trains the roots downward, and this way you have a lot more vegetables with a lot less time. And I've been amazed after installing the Mr. Landscaper kit for my containers, how much peace of mind I have that my containers are watered effectively, and how much time I got back. And I'll link that kit down below. Next reason container gardens fail is because you have the wrong plant for the pot. Now it sounds very similar to fail number 1, the wrong pot size. But this isn't about fixing a mistake. This is actually about getting better results. Some plants just simply outgrow the containers that they're in, and then they don't produce good harvests. What you can do instead of growing big, huge, indeterminate tomatoes that take up a ton of space is grow the same vegetable, but a more compact, smaller, container-friendly variety. For example, this super large indeterminate tomato is going to grow about 8 to 10 feet tall and take up about a 20-gallon pot or so. It's going to take up a lot of room on your deck or patio. What you can do instead to get better results in a smaller amount of space is grow a different variety of tomato that's more compact, more container friendly, and more suitable to the space that you have. So you could grow a small, determinate, more bush variety tomato or a dwarf tomato in a 5-gallon pot and still get a really huge yield without taking up so much space. So this is exactly why I've designed my container garden seed collection with varieties that I've hand-picked that grow very well in containers. For example, a mini yellow bell container, which you can grow in a 3 to 5 gallon container, a golden nugget tomato, or one of my favorites, the pick a bushel cucumber, which is a much smaller variety of cucumber, still going to give you great yield, but not take up so much space. No more guessing about what varieties grow well in containers. Plan along with me. You can grab it for 26% off over at CaliKimGardenandHome.com with the code THRIVE26. Share in the comments which part of this video connected with you the most. I'll be reading your comments and responding. And remember, our theme for 2026 is garden like you mean it. Garden with intention, not perfection. So intentionally fix your fails, move on, and you'll be a better gardener because of it. Thanks for watching. See you next time in the garden.